3 state championship. We're going off in 3, 2, 1. Let's go racing, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Cat 3 state championship.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are finally back to racing the freaking bike. Thank God. The last couple months have been absolutely awful. For those of you guys that have been following me on Strava and Instagram and everywhere else on socials, you would already know that I've been sick twice in the last 2 months. So I was sick in June, had ye old virus that shall not be named for the second time, had it last time in December, got over that, had one good week on the bike and was like, okay, cool, I didn't lose all my fitness. I was hammering. But then after that week, I got destroyed by some other cold that happened early July. So this race is actually at the tail end of my very first week back on the bike. As you can imagine, the lungs are in no condition to be racing. Well, that's not true. They're in condition to be racing, but definitely not in condition to be finishing strong. So I'm just showing up today, trying to do what I can, do a little bit of work for the team, maybe see what I can do for Colin and Spencer. It's only 3 of us today, so we're getting rocking and rolling. Let me give you guys the details on the course. So this is the Manhattan Beach Grand Prix. This is the 59th annual Manhattan Beach Grand Prix. It's a 50-minute crit for the Cat 3 group. The course itself is about 1.3 or 1.4 miles long. I do believe they've done this in the other direction in the past, but we're going left turns today. Now, the turns, something worth mentioning here, it's kind of a hot dog style course with a really gradual bend in it. The thing is these aren't real hairpins, so you can kind of haul ass through the corners and you shouldn't have any problems cornering. Except there, obviously, you know, I was still getting used to the lines. Spencer had already raced this once today, so he was kind of showing me and calling the lines, which is why I hustled to get to the front with my 2 teammates here, who you can see I'm rolling up next to. But the overall idea here was to sit in and do absolutely no work for majority of the day. So there's only 3 of us in this. We didn't have a very big squad. There were a lot of squads that were much bigger than ours. I was only gonna be in a move if it was an easy move to follow. I wasn't gonna necessarily chase anything or do anything crazy. And early on like this, when you see everybody going flying up the road, it's really not a threat. This particular race does end in a sprint more often than not. So that's something worth noting here. And this long straight is gonna be a factor. It's like a kilometer from the last corner all the way to the line. So thankfully, my coach, Taylor Warren, gave me some pointers on this and said, hey man, it's a long drag. You do not want to be first wheel coming out of that corner. So our plan was to have Spencer on the front, me following him, and then Colin right behind me to maybe take that long drag sprint. So we wanted to have a couple guys in front of him to give him a little bit of reprieve, drop him off at 250 meters to go, and see what happens. Now, did that pan out? Did we get organized? I don't know, man. So let's jump forward and talk about some key moments in this race once we all get warmed up and the dynamic gets flowing here and we see how things are going to shake out. So positioning was probably the most important thing for me in this race. As I mentioned before, I really have no lungs to go on. So I really need to be efficient. I need to maintain my position at the front of this race. I need to not be burning a ton of matches coming out of these corners. So we're already doing like 700-800 watts out of this corner in particular because it goes straight into an uphill kicker and everybody loved to attack right here. So if I was towards the back of this 60-man deep field, it really hurt. I mean, you basically lost all your speed down to like 15 miles an hour at the back, and then you were hammering like 1,000 watts to hang on instead of the 700 watt effort up front. As you guys will notice, I'm positioning myself towards the right of the group here. Even being top 10 wheels here, it's totally fine because the wind is coming from left to right. So I'm wanting to stay in the gutter. A lot of the day I was kind of protecting this gutter because a lot of people wanted to move up over there. And then I also was using it to move up when I could. But it got a little sketch at times. There was some, bar bumping, elbow rubbing. Luckily, the Cat 3 is relatively safe for that. Our Cat 3s here in SoCal, we've all had a ton of race experience at this point for the most part. Maybe there are a few guys that blew through Cat 4, but overall, a lot of these guys have raced with each other. They've raced against each other. Nobody really panics if there's a little bit of rubbing and bumping going on. So you will see some of that. It gets a little dicey in the middle of the race and then towards the end, but I mean, everybody's trying to win this bike race, man. It's a little bit higher stakes when you got a Cat 3 state champ on the line. What are you gonna do? You know, you gotta send it. One thing I want to note here, Spencer is up in the front with me. Colin was also up here a ton. That was great because something that we've realized we need to work on as a team is just being within eyesight of one another. So at this point, I'm shifting to the left side of the road, still trying to get that draft and maintain that efficiency that I was talking about before. Overall, I did a pretty good job of that. I only managed 249 watts at like 155 pounds for the duration of the race, which is huge for me. I didn't follow too many moves. This is one exception. I thought, okay, you know, he's going. I already have the momentum. Might as well shut it down and jump on. I saw Spencer was in a good position to maybe control the front of the field. I looked back, though, and it seemed like, you know, this downhill's not the place to do it. There was just so much speed already that the peloton was kind of attached. So I'm not going to pull through here. Like I said, I'm not going to do the work today. It's not on my agenda. I'll let somebody else send a flyer. And as I say that, Eli with Bros Ride Bikes, he takes off up the front. And Spencer, everybody else, the Canes guy here on the right, you see, everybody's just gonna kind of give chase and reel him back in nice and slow. So a little bit of a break has formed up the road here, and like I said before, I'm not gonna do any chasing. Spencer luckily has brought them within a reasonable distance. Right as he gets us close, Yogi with stage 2 and Henrik, an ex, I believe, Olympic rower. Sorry, Henrik, if I'm wrong about that, man, but he rides for Bicycle House out of Arizona. I know he's strong. They come by me, and I realize if I slide into their draft and Spencer is on the front, we might be able to get a little bit of a gap. Now, when we come through this break, my idea is that we just steamroll them. I don't really want any of these guys that are in this makeup necessarily involved unless they can jump out and get on our wheels. So I holler at Yogi there. I'm like, keep rolling, hoping to get a little bit of separation here. And so he drills it for a second, loses a little bit of momentum in the wind. Henrik goes by him, I go by him. I'm kind of looking back here, and as soon as I look back, I realize that we're pretty much still attached. So no dice there. I don't think this is gonna stick. Nothing cool is gonna happen there. But right on time, Spencer throws a little bit of a counter here, tries to get himself up the road, just keeps that pace hot, which is great. One thing I am realizing here, though, is that my lungs are starting to feel it. My heart rate is definitely elevated. I set new heart rate PRs in this race, man. Like, I think I did 187 max. I did 189 last year when I was kind of unfit and it was really hot. But considering it's like 75 degrees out here, there's no way I should be pegged at 187. So that's just me not having any volume on the bike and basically coming out doing an all-out effort. So coming through the start finish, let's jump forward and check out kind of how this race shakes out. So we're getting much deeper in the race now. We're getting to the point where this is 4 to go. We're gonna be coming into 3 to go here pretty soon in about a half lap. Now, I had kind of a weird thought process here, and I don't know if it was a good one or not. Blake with Velosport launches up the left, and Spencer sends it behind him. I realize that I can kind of let that gap go, but then when we come into this corner, I carry so much speed momentum that I realize I sort of gap the group behind me. And I have a couple bike length gap there, and I'm like, dude, all right, 600-700 watts out of the corner. If they would have maintained that speed, my thought in my head was that that was a chance to sort of stack a break. Unfortunately, obviously, everybody, you know, also hammered out of that corner and closed it down. So that didn't happen. But where it did leave us is on the front. And Spencer and I are on the front with way too much time left in this race. So let's talk through that and then kind of the position that we're in here and what we do about it. Coming into 3 to go with only 3 guys on your team, you definitely don't want to be riding the front. And you definitely don't want to be doing that if the course is a 1.3 mile course. Now, I knew this was too early. Spencer knew it was too early, but nobody is relieving us. If you look at my rear cam, you can see that everybody's just chilling. They're more than happy with us sitting up here riding tempo. The problem is I don't have the lungs or fitness right now, having only ridden my bike like 4 times before this, to actually help out and do any work. So the idea was obviously that Colin was going to be the guy sprinting today, and me and Spencer were going to work. I was on limited work duty because I just didn't have it. Spencer had already raced a race today. There was just no way we were going to hang in there for 3.9 miles doing what we're doing here. And as you guys will see, eventually riders do start to come up and take over. We come out of this corner, and then as we come up the hill, people start realizing that this is their spot to attack us. And we are pretty out of position. The only thing I can think that maybe would have worked here is if Colin had been able to jump on one of those wheels. That would have put him in position, I guess, but there's still a long way to go. So as I mentioned before, the Flex Rider will take over just here in a second. And one thing that he does is he kind of takes the left side or the center of the road here. And like I mentioned before, the wind is coming left to right. So as we crest the hill and we start to go down the hill, I don't really want to give anybody that free ride on the next roller. So I do holler at Spencer here and try and get us to move right and protect that gutter. I want to make sure everybody else is doing the same amount of work we are if they're just going to force us to sit up here. Now, unfortunately, what I think that did is it just encouraged everybody to start attacking us because they weren't really getting any shelter back there. So as we crest the next hill, we start getting attacked, and that filters us back, and we end up sort of out of position, and that puts us in kind of a, you know, precarious situation for the last lap. I was actually pretty toast. As you can see, my heart rate is climbing pretty hard here. So as everybody starts to steamroll by us, we do get filtered back. Colin does maintain pretty good position for the last lap, but let's fast forward to that and see how things go for the squad. Jumping ahead to the last lap, I'm going to walk you guys through pretty much the whole thing and kind of my thought process. Obviously, I am way out of position, so I'm thinking in my head, like, it's do or die. I have to move up here. There's really no other option when you're this out of position with, you know, only 2 minutes left in the race. You have to kind of just give it your all and move up any opportunity you get. Luckily, Colin is actually in a really good position here. He's actually, I think, third wheel or something right now, but he kind of makes a fatal error here, and he attacks going into this next downhill, and he gets a little bit of a gap. Back here, I'm surfing wheels. I'm yelling at people to move up because if we don't move up at this point, we're moving backwards. Everybody on the left is surging. I'm trying to surge up the gutter and get better positioning here. And you can't coast. If you're not turning your pedals, it's game over. You are not even in contention for this race. So there are already gaps opening behind me. It's getting blown apart, and this next roller is going to make it even worse. So Colin's up the road. You can barely see him. He's a little speck in the distance, and we're just like hauling butt trying to bring him back. There's people on the front hammering. Ironically enough, the winner of the race actually just passed on my left and pushed his way up. So I'm not in bad position here, but I'm not in like good position. So I'm thinking I'm gonna take a tight line here, get a little bit scared and push off my line, which actually opens a little bit of a gap here, and then I have to do a pretty big effort to close it. So bad cornering there and just kind of getting pushed out, push off my line. I was overlapping wheels there. You know, that kind of messed me up, but I make an even worse error here. I'm moving up on the left and I'm getting involved, and I'm like, okay, I'm like 20, 25 wheels back here, but people are dying out. So if I actually would have just taken this free ride on the left with the Subaru rider, I would have been able to slot up nicely into like the top 10 wheels, and that finish could have been really nice for me. So I'm passing some people here. Everything looks good. Maybe I can get across. Mechanical in front of me. And then, as you can see, there's just a gap here. And at my current state of fitness, man, with the lungs I've got and just where I'm at, there's no way I'm closing anything. My sprint is popped. I've got nothing left. So I sit up. I was one of those people that died and didn't make it to the line. It was just too long a drag for my fitness levels right now. Ironically enough, I think that had I had good fitness and been on form like I was before June, I probably would have done all right. And I typically don't really say that because, you know, you finish how you finish and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, in this one, I do feel like there was an opportunity there that, you know, I don't know. I probably could have had that top 10 result that I was looking for. I had the momentum. If I'd have had my sprint legs and, more importantly, my lungs, I think I could have had a good finish. But, well, it is what it is. We're getting back on the bike. We're getting fit again, and got some track racing coming in August, so I'm gearing up for that. I'll see you guys again soon.